Cut the clutter, less distraction, more thinking. Many online courses try to be helpful. They explain more, show more, add more. More text, more visuals, more context, more options. But when everything is added, something important is lost. Clarity. You open a learning unit and immediately have to decide where to look. A headline at the top, a text block on the left, icons on the right, a graphic below, maybe a highlighted box with additional information. Before learning can even begin, the brain is already busy managing attention, and yet the learner wants only one thing: to understand. Welcome to eLearning Tactics, the podcast for everyone who designs and develops eLearning. My name is Johannes, and I am the CEO of the Berlin-based Moodle partner eLearning. In each episode, I introduce one concrete strategy for creating effective digital learning. This tactic is not about minimalism for aesthetic reasons, and it is about creating the right conditions for thinking. Why clutter is a learning problem? Clutter is not just a design issue, it is a cognitive issue. Learning depends on the capacity of the human working memory, and that capacity is limited. This is explained by cognitive load theory. According to this theory, there are three types of cognitive load. Intrinsic cognitive load comes from the complexity of the content itself. Some topics are simply harder to understand than others. Germane cognitive load is the mental effort that contributes to learning. This is the effort we want: thinking, connecting ideas, building understanding. Extraneous cognitive load comes from poor design, from unnecessary information, distracting visuals, confusing layouts. Cut the Clutter focuses on reducing extraneous cognitive load because every unnecessary element competes with the learning content for attention, and attention is not unlimited. What cut the clutter really means. Cut the clutter does not mean removing everything until nothing is left. It means making conscious design decisions. Every element in a learning unit should have a clear function. If an element does not support understanding, it should not be there. This includes decorative images that look nice but explain nothing, long text that repeat what is already obvious, background colors or shapes that draw attention without adding meaning, animations that entertain but do not guide thinking. When learners have to decide what is important, they have less capacity to actually process the content. Cutting clutter removes these decisions. Imagine a typical e-learning screen. At the top, a long title and subtitle. Below that, a paragraph explaining the concept. On the side, an image that illustrates the topic in a general way. Underneath, a highlighted box with additional background information. And at the bottom, a link to optional reading. Nothing here is wrong on its own, but all of it together overloads the learner. Now imagine the same content redesigned. A short focused title, one concise explanation of the core idea, one visual that directly supports that explanation. Optional details move to a separate screen or interaction. The content has not been reduced, but the cognitive load has. That is cut the clutter in practice. Let us now turn this into concrete actions you can apply immediately. I will talk about 4 ideas. First, the learning objective filter. For every element on the screen, ask one question. Does this help the learner achieve the learning objective? Not indirectly, not potentially. Directly. If the answer is not a clear yes, remove it or move it elsewhere. Second, one screen, one idea. Each screen should communicate one central message. If a learner cannot summarize the screen in one sentence, there is probably too much on it. Segment complex explanations into multiple steps. This makes learning easier and more robust. Third, visual hierarchy. Design is not neutral. It always guides attention. Ask yourself, what do learners see first? What do they see second? What can they safely ignore? Use headings, spacing, and contrast intentionally. White space is not empty space. It is thinking space. Fourth, sequential presentation. Do not force learners to integrate everything at once. Present information in a meaningful order. First the core idea, then the explanation, then the example, then the application. This reduces overload and supports understanding. There are common mistakes when reducing clutter. I will introduce two of them. There are two typical mistakes. The first is over-reduction. When too much context is removed, learners may memorize information without understanding it. Clarity should not come at the cost of meaning. The second mistake is removing all emotional or visual elements. Learning is not purely rational. Well-chosen examples, visuals, or stories can support memory and engagement. The key question is always function, not decoration. Take a moment to reflect which elements in your courses are still there because they have always been there. Instructions that no one reads, graphics copied from old slides, text blocks added just in case. Cutting clutter often means questioning habits. Here is a simple action you can take today. Open one learning unit you have designed. Choose one screen. Remove three elements that do not directly support the learning objective. Do not replace them. Just remove them. Then look at the screen again. You will likely notice more clarity, more focus, and more space for thinking. Cut the clutter is not about doing less work. It is about designing learning environments that respect how the human brain actually works. What you remove makes room for what truly matters. Thank you for listening.